We're live.
Good morning. This is the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Board of Commissioners Work Session for Monday, April 21st at 9 a.m. The first thing I want to talk about was Sherilyn is sitting in. She's not sworn in, but she can participate in today's work session because there are things we may discuss today that she may be voting on next week after she's sworn in. I guess first thing we have is an update from Bill England on the sprinkler install.
I'll go first and kind of give an update and I'll introduce it.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Mike.
Thank you.
That's Tyler.
Hello, everybody. Tyler Scroggins, Golf Course Superintendent. I'm just going to give an update on the fairway irrigation install that we're doing. All the heads are installed. All the holes are backfilled. We just got the rain, so all the holes, they're settled now. So right now I'm flushing the lines in case there's debris stuck in the lines before we put the sod back on. So next step is to get some topsoil to get everything level. Then we'll take the sod that we pull it off around the old sprinkler heads, put it on there, tamp it down, level it out. And right now, as we're going by, Mr. England brought a rock hammer, and we're kind of knocking a few rocks out of the fairways that damage our mowers. And if we get those rocks out of the fairways, put some new topsoil on there to fill those holes, and then the grass roots will have something actually growing. I just want to introduce Bill England. He's the one that we contracted out to do this work with us that we're helping with, and I'll let him kind of tell you what he's seen while he's out there working.
First off, I think y'all got a really nice golf course. It was really nice. My hat's off to these guys. Worked on a golf course all my life. Know more about golf courses than I do anything.
Can you come closer to the mic, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
So, I would take your crew and go against any crew that works on a golf course, and we would whip them pretty bad. That's the truth. I've done sprinkler heads many times. My record was 28 sprinkler heads in a day. We did 30 in the worst ground I've ever worked in. That's the truth. We were pulling out rocks that wouldn't fit in the Cushman. So that's pretty good sized rocks on top of water lines. I couldn't believe that they hand dug as many as they hand dug as quick as they did. So, I mean, they got their mechanics out there helping. They got a good crew. I'm really impressed with them. I think you got a long ways to go on some stuff. And I think that, you know, there's got to be some pats given on backs for these guys because they do an outstanding job every day. I mean, I don't want to take nothing away from them. Like I said, I'm, you know, running equipment on a golf course forever, but I'm really impressed with them. Your golf course is in really good shape because of what these guys do. So,
Bill, when are we going to be completed?
I'd say we're shooting for Friday.
Depending on the rain.
Yeah, we're almost a month ahead of schedule.
So yeah, just under a month because we got set back on rain.
Yeah, rain's kind of kicked us out a couple of times, but we're definitely ahead of schedule. So I think that's impressive. Anything else? I don't know.
There was one whole week that he worked on Monday. Then we got rained out the rest of the week.
When we talked about this 3 weeks ago, we had two options. One was Mr. England at 4 days and $6,000. The other one was a bid
Of $36,000
$36,000.
in 3 weeks.
So we talked about it at the time and questioned the 4 days and $6,000, but And now you're saying you're a month ahead of schedule. I'm not following this logic.
Well, I never said 4
I-
days.
I feel like I said it was gonna be 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
whenever I was talking, whenever I was given the 2 bids.
And their biggest problem was the borders that they ran into and the rocks on top of the fittings and the different size of fittings. So they're moving along quite rapidly compared to what we ran into, which you can't see underground. And we're still under the budget of what we thought. Well, not the original. The original $21,000 bid, we're still under that.
So where are we in relation to the number of hours? If I remember right, we were bidding on basically $150 an hour.
$150 an
Based
hour.
on 4 days.
Yeah.
So now we're at 2 weeks.
We're at 2 weeks.
I don't remember the 4 days. I know I've said that it was gonna be 2 weeks, I was expecting a week of tearing it out, a week of install, and then trying to get everything touched back up.
Well, that's a disconnect from.
Yeah, because
Because what we
It's much different than what we were told.
were told and voted on at the time.
I feel like I said 2 weeks.
Okay.
I can go back and see what I can find on what I've turned in on, the bids, and get back with you.
the original bid was $21,000 for his original bid.
Where did we come up with 4 days and 6 hours?
I remember we came up. They were thinking it was going to take a week to get them all dug, and then a week to put them in, and then backfill. So that we took, and it was $150 an hour
It's 40 hours.
times 40 hours. That's when we came up with the 6,000, and then we ran on that. And then we forgot about the other 2 weeks. The other week so it had been right around 12,000, but now we're at 16,000, I think, right
I
now.
can definitely say that first week, whenever Bill started, whenever we got digging, we were out there till 7 or 8 at night, so we definitely were working more than 40 hours that week. Because I didn't want to burn my guys out, so I sent them home and stuff there with Bill, working
Just
3 to 4 hours after everybody else got off, just so we could get more stuff done. So, the first week, we definitely were working those late hours. Now, we're not working as long, so we're working closer to the 40, 45 hours.
We were figuring at $6,000 a week. In which the first 2 weeks we were below the 6,000, and then this last week we were above it. So, but they put in a lot more hours last week, especially with the 9-hole replacing that main that was cracked and all that.
Well, I understand there was some things unforeseen, especially the 50 feet of main over on number 9.
Yeah.
That was obviously not
Yeah,
seen ahead of time.
we did not want to do that. That's the most shallow main line that he's ever seen.
I've ever seen on a golf course. It was only a foot deep. The main line was only a foot deep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we stayed 4 foot on the other side. Then we got up to 9, and it come all the way up to a foot deep. And I never seen a main at 4 foot deep on any golf course.
I've never seen that anywhere myself.
But I haven't either.
I guess we're back to dollars and cents. If you're done on Friday, where are we at with the budget?
I'll have to look up on my POs, and I can send you an email.
Yeah, because right now we're right at 16,000.
Okay.
Okay, 16, and based on, we're under budget based on a $21,000 budget.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I did it as cheap as I possibly could, because I did want to see y'all do better.
well, I'm not at all upset or disappointed with your work, you guys are doing great. I guess there was just some communication on the front end on how much the labor was going to be. And that's not your issue, that's, our issue.
I understand that, but I'm saying, with what they had to deal with, 21,000 is dirt cheap. honestly. I mean, we have rocks that we couldn't put them in the Cushman. We had to bring the 1 ton out because the rocks were so big. I'm talking on top of the water line. You got pictures of it too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one time, it was a lot of times. Like trying to dig the water line and it's dragging the traco to the rock because it's so big right on top of the water line.
So basically, all we have left is putting side pad, some topsoil inside.
And clean it up.
Okay.
And like I said, if the weather holds off this week, we should be able to get it all pretty much done this week.
Yep.
And it's all kind of weather dependent now because I don't want to have his heavy machinery out there on the fairway causing us more work in the future.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's one thing I don't want to happen.
Are you going to finish the back 9 or front 9? Or are you just kind of going about it a different way?
We're making a circle.
Yeah, right now we've got sod. I think the guys started on 10. I don't know if they got all of number 11 done. I know they got 13 sodded back up.
The only issue I've heard is, why don't we finish the front 9 or the back 9? One or the other, and then do the other one.
I know the initial thought and my process of I wanted him to start on number 10 because the back 9 was built at a different time and I have more valves where I can section off 2 to 3 holes at a time on the back 9 compared to the front 9 where I've got 3 valves where I got one that leaks, and so I got to turn off the whole front 9 golf course if we're digging out there. On the back 9 I can turn off 2 to 3 fairways, greens at a time and section off that back 9 a little easier. So that's whenever we were initially starting to dig, I would do that just in case we did break something like we did. We broke a few swing joints that were PVC. It's easier for me to turn off and drain 2 fairways compared to 9 fairways. So that was, whenever we got done, we just went right back around because we knew I already had the install done on 10, 11, 12, and we went back around, started backfilling, and so that's how we kind of went with that process of that order.
And whenever we get down there, everything's been different. Nothing's been the same, nothing's been, I mean, it is amazing how different one head to the next head is. I've never seen that either.
For some reason, that doesn't surprise me.
You can tell they were built at 2 different times.
Yes.
I bought fittings, and then I got to the back 9, and I said, these fittings are not going to work unless they're on the front 9. So luckily, I have Eric, the mechanic, and he was kind of running around getting me parts throughout the state of Arkansas. So
Mainly the rocks probably were all, when they dug up and dug the line, they just dumped the rock back on top.
Yes.
Right back in the hole.
I think what we can come up with was whoever the contractor was that did the work either shot a really low bid and got in there and didn't want to really deal with a lot of stuff, so they did it and just shoved everything back in, or maybe somebody had a grudge against somebody back then and they did not like them. But yeah, there were some rocks that I know there was one rock, if we would have ran across that hand digging, we would still be digging around that rock right now.
Yeah.
I'd also like to put in a plug that also helped maybe save me sometimes. Some of the volunteer golfers we did have,
Yes.
they were hauling the rocks instead of putting those big rocks back in.
Yeah.
We were getting some volunteers out there, volunteer golfers to haul the big rocks out so they weren't going right back in.
We decided, I know we can't get every single rock out, but we decided anything that was larger than your fist, throw it off to the side so we could keep moving. So we had piles of rocks out there, and I'm glad a lot of the Hemgood guys came out and they picked up the rocks and they picked up the sprinkler heads, because we would just toss that old sprinkler head off to the side and just keep moving instead of, all right, put this in the truck, take it back to the shop and come back out here. So they got all the trash, they got all the rocks cleaned up, so we didn't have to worry about getting that stuff. We could just keep on digging and installing and backfilling.
What happens after Bill is done?
After Bill's done,
Yeah,
I
that's
have to go and I still need to do my late winter, early spring spray on the warm season grass, and then we have to start aerifying greens.
Okay.
So the rain has helped with greens watering, where if I miss a watering with the greens because I got water off, Like, I'm not losing any of my greens right now, so that's good. But I am behind on a few spring projects that we have to get done that we do yearly. So after Bill's done and we're all wrapped up, then I'm gonna be working my butt off to get everything sprayed. 9-hole already got sprayed on the warm season. An 18-hole still needs to get sprayed on the warm season grass, and then we gotta aerify both courses.
When do we, oversee all those bare spots?
With those, I'm gonna look into getting sprigs because it's gonna be cheaper than sod. And what I would like to do is get a warm season grass, because we're going into this, in the warm summer. We can get warm season sprigs out there, and they'll actually grow really good through the summer. If we start throwing cool season grass out there, it'll burn out in the heat of the summer.
Well, you can put that cool season grass, top dress over next year, I mean, if you want, for next
If
spring.
we want, the main thing with that is whenever I spray my winter spray to kill out all the weeds, the cool season grass is gonna get killed out whenever I spray my
Yeah,
winter
you wouldn't
spray
probably put that on until early spring.
until early spring, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we gotta look at the dollars.
You
with
think
that.
of soya grass, in those bare spots,
If
stand up soya grass?
I can talk to you guys to see if you want zoysia or if you want to go with the Bermuda that I have out there on the course right now.
I mean, what's the most viable for this soil?
Most viable would probably be Bermuda. It's very rocky and the soil isn't the best. I grew up in St. Louis, working in St. Louis, and they had all zoysia and I loved it. That ball just sits up on it, but realistically, probably if we get a turf type Bermuda, it'll be better than the common stuff that we have growing out there.
It'll probably grow a lot faster too.
It'll grow a lot faster, it'll grow a little thicker, and it'll hold that ball up a little better than that common Bermuda that we have out there.
Because, right now, I mean, you know, the bare the spot, there'll be more topsoil keep washing away.
Yep.
Go back on, like say, number 1, down there on the fence, and the ground is about this deep, where it washed against the fence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of topsoil is sitting down there.
Yeah.
That's
A lot
why
of
we gotta take
those
a tractor and go down there
A
and,
lot of those fairways on the right side, you can see all the exposed rock where it's been
right.
eroding over time on every single one of those.
I know
front
at
nine
number
fairways.
1 fairway, I think it's number 1, there's some big rocks right out, almost in the fairway.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna bust those up? And,
If we have time, we'll get out there.
If we got time.
'cause I mean, I've seen balls hit there, hit the ball in the fairway and go way out of bounds just because it hit right in the rock in the fairway.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, if we can get those,
All the rocks are out of 18, All of
18,
them are out of 18.
12,
all of them are out of,
the stuff that's in the rocks that are sticking out in the fairways.
I mean, rocks sticking up like that, in the fairway are gone. They're not there anymore.
well, I know number 1, there's some rocks sticking out.
Yeah.
Out there.
Well, Tyler said that, but I don't know if we'll have time to make it over there. I don't know. That's- Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming and giving us a good update on what's going on.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Any more questions, you can get with Rich and he'll get with me or email me. And then, normally at the end of the day, I check my emails since we're out there busting our butts, trying to get as much done as we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Release thing. You got-
David, I guess we'll hear the updates on the joint task force of the road maintenance meeting.
I wanted to amend the agenda. You never called.
It's just a work session, you can do it later.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Okay. So our joint road task force has met several times. We met for our final time this last, on April 2nd. And I say it's our last time because, we basically met our achieved goal of how can we best utilize the city to be able to help use their funds on our roads for maintenance. We did a lot of research, individually, and then we collectively got together, with our respective legal counsel in a joint meeting, to address several questions that we had raised during our work session. The end takeaway, based on our legal counsel recommendations and their opinions, are that as long as the HICID roads are dedicated for public use, the cities and HICID cities in general, and of course Holiday Island, the city of, can use their funds for maintaining our roads. Also, our legal counsel.
Do we have to make that declaration?
No, that's where we're going next. So basically, it was consensus of both our legal counsels as well, that based on state law, et cetera, that once the plaques were originally dedicated and actually went to the county for plaques, they were dedicated for public use at that time. And I see the mayor, he's on our task force too, so if I get anything wrong, feel free to raise your hand and clarify, but I'm gonna try my best to make sure we're consolidating this. But yeah, so they are dedicated for public use, which that was the big hurdle that we needed to get addressed, and so we feel comfortable. Now, to go one step further, to make sure we feel even more comfortable, from a legal standpoint, is that they recommend that we continue with what we're currently doing, or what we did last year, through an interlocal agreement, to maintain that process where we update them each year. And any roads that the cities will verbally accept, and we can start moving forward to give to them and dedicate to the city, that will make it even more ironclad from a legal perspective that the city then can maintain those roads. So in the interim, in the short term, year by year, until we figure out how to long-term transition more functions from the HICID to the city, the goal is to continue using the interlocal agreement. And I'll stop right there and see if there are any questions on that.
My understanding is we're not doing any paving then this year.
So that leads me to step 2. So the council met after to do what I'm doing. They met before us at they had a special meeting on the 8th of April. And so the mayor briefed out what I just briefed out basically. And they also had on their a takeaway from our task force to look, since we're actually talking city council funds, what do they want to do for their budget for the 2025/2026 plan. And so the mayor presented to the council what the options were, and they voted on a path forward based on whether to continue with the task force original idea of doing 3 small roads this year and test the process and just get something done, or stockpile the funds and do a larger project for 2026 with more time to bid it out, get more bids out, get a better price, because the larger the project, basically the bid we got, if we were to stick with just doing 3 small roads just to test the system and kind of, I mean, it's 3 roads we do need to do, but there's all the roads that really need to be done. So chip and seal cost equivalent just from that one bid was, if we did the 3 roads this year, it was going to be roughly $1.75 a square foot. If we do it to that same bid for say 8 miles next year, we're down to 75 cents a square foot.
That's price.
Oh yeah, because of all to mobilize and get all the materials for this small project at this late a date, it's not worth these contractors' time and effort to do that. So the council voted, majority vote. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a majority vote to say the council is going to not accept any streets this year. They signed this year's 2025 interlocal agreement, which is basically the same terms from last year, because we have to redo the interlocal agreement each year. And so, from what I understand from Rich this morning, you've just executed it.
Yep.
So basically, the interlocal agreement for 2025 is now executed. We are maintaining the same roads from last year are still in place. The next step that we're recommending then is to begin work on the 2026 interlocal agreement to allow the HICID and the city to work together to find what 8 miles of chip and seal targets is what we're looking for. Chip and seal roads we can focus on and start bidding out now and getting on a calendar for next year. Now the execution, this would all be kind of a verbal handshake until executing the next interlocal in January or when we can do it. So I'll stop right there. Does that answer any questions for that right now?
Yeah, I guess my only concern is the promises are ideas for the people that feel like they're living on a gravel road. We said we Was it Haddock?
Yes.
Yeah, Haddock is the one.
I guess if nothing else, we need to communicate with those homeowners and explain to them what we're doing, and that we're not just blowing them off.
And it's also, and then from a HICID side, you know, big elephant in the room, there's a lawsuit right now too with our funds and you know, orders of, there's questions about our financial state, so we're not trying to do a big projects, and I don't think, did we even have enough to do Haddock Lane in the budget?
I don't know.
I think it was close for our,
30,000.
yeah, we're not talking the city now, we're talking
Right,
HICID doing it.
right, I thought we were talking about $60,000 for Haddock Lane.
Yeah, I think that was I think that was all three of them because the Haddock, Rocky Top.
And I think there were 100,000 for all three.
Was it 100,000 for all three? Okay. Because
Yeah.
then it was 60,000 just for the Haddock because it was a block.
Yeah, and we, in our HICID budget, again, our HICID budget, from what Mike was telling me, was like 30,000.
30,000.
Well, I guess then, the right thing to do is that we communicate with these homeowners, and let them know that we are gonna pay them next year.
Mhm.
That it's, you know, they're on the top of the list. Because I think that's the only people that really are affected by this decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I was championing trying to get Haddock Lane done this year, but
Well,
from a cost perspective, it doesn't make sense to just try and mobilize for just one road right now. And I mean, I get it.
No, I agree. We need to
And
search our
I can
dollars as
talk-
far as we can.
Yeah, and I can talk to her, and I think if she has to wait a year, she's going to be ecstatic just because it's been put off for 17 years. So,
And the last
I
thing,
just think we need to communicate that.
I agree. So the last thing I'll touch on, and it's the high level, it's my last bullet. You heard me allude to what the transition plan from HICID, you know, what's the future state look in 5 years? Where does HICID stand versus the city? And we need to really schedule the next, I recommend we schedule our next joint Holiday Island HICID meeting like we did in January. We're in a new quarter. Maybe reach out and start mapping out. We agreed that the task force has done what it needs to do from the road task force, but we really need, and the mayor mentioned to the city council, you know, his vision, and I don't disagree with it. We need to get together and maybe have a facilitator look at a giant org chart, right? And say, here's where we want to be in 5 years or 3 years, whatever it is. What task force, a revenue task force, you know, get people from the city, HICID, and the community to help formulate that, you know, people with good finance backgrounds in the community to help. And get another one on the legal side, research what can we do or not do. You know, what's in the realm of what we can and can't do. And then just map that out. And that's where we, you know, have that joint meeting looking at the future state. And get that going because.
Have you considered a date, a month?
Well, we were talking about May. I mean, we're in the new quarter, but it's really coordinating with, I think we all agree that Cindy Reagan was a good facilitator, and if we could maybe get her up again, since she's familiar with.
I kind of wonder if, just in logistics, that we put it off till June after our May 30 court date and see what comes out of that and schedule a meeting.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking that could actually help to show that we're, you know,
I don't know.
that our legals showing that we're looking at a future state that may not even entail AOBs in the future, potentially.
I don't know how that's gonna affect the judge's
I don't know what's going to happen.
decisions on May 30th.
Okay, so I just say, as long as we can start looking to it, I recommend we look at a date, and whatever, if it's June, so be it. Let's get something earmarked on the calendar.
Yeah, I think the important thing is to get a date on the calendar so that people know that that joint meeting wasn't just a one-off thing.
Okay. Well, I agree, we should get something going and set a date, and that's it.
also the first week of June is when the auditors will be here, and then we are going to revise the budget in that same week area too. So, if you want to put that in the back of your mind for the financial part of it.
Okay.
And that's all I had. Pending any, or did I miss anything, Mayor?
I can just probably add one minor thing. Just from a technicality, the road dedication is basically a pitching and catching process. And so even though the attorneys said that when the plats were filed showing the roads separate from private property, that constituted the pitching. And so that there wouldn't have to be anything more done on the part of HICID. But we still, from the city's perspective, we still would have to pass an ordinance accepting the dedication. If you look at, Rich found this, or maybe Mike found it, but anyway, the state GIS office, the office that does all the mapping and everything for Arkansas, if you go on their website, you can pull up a map that shows every road in Arkansas. And there's a table that shows whether or not those streets or roads are private, municipal, county, or state roads. And on that table, it basically shows everything south of Highway 23 to have been the record right now still shows that they're county roads, not HICID roads, and everything on the north side, that historically has been Holiday Island, shows to be private. Even the roads that we have accepted dedication for on that table still show to be private. So it just adds to the confusion of how every platting was done differently and treated differently, and the state was informed differently and everything else as to what was public and what was private. Now, from a technical standpoint, if on that table they were shown to be county roads, they automatically became city roads when we incorporated. However, we don't know at this point where the state got their information from to call those county roads. So we don't know that they're really any different than anything else. But bottom line is, to make it clean, the city, we plan on passing ordinances as we accept responsibility for roads. And, we're willing and able to do that. So, and I think at this point in time, our general position is that it's not a matter of if the city takes over all the roads, it's a matter of when, because it's going to have to be a transition. And hopefully, people understand that can't happen overnight. So.
And I guess I'll finish off, thanks Mayor, finish off with the draft budget that you would put together just for your city council that showed that if we do this, plan for next year, you'd be able to bring to bear almost $650,000 roughly just to dedicate for chipping and seal. Plus you have a reserve $150K that is set aside in an account ready to go in case the Woodsdale grant overlay gets approved.
Right.
So that's a significant chunk of money to be able to bring to bear for next year.
And we would still have $300,000 or $400,000 in the bank over and above that for future projects and stuff like that. So financially, we're in good shape. We would have to pass, the city council would have to pass terms has slipped me.
Regulation.
Well, they would have to grant or approve a tax millage for next year, for us to start generating the type of revenue that we would need in order to take over the roads. So that's something that has to be done too yet, which is one reason why it can't happen immediately, because you pass the resolution in October, the county board puts it into their budget in December, and that money gets collected next year, most of it in the October timeframe, so it's from the time you pass the millage ordinance or resolution until you have tax money in the bank is about a year. So, that's why it can't happen immediately, but it can happen over the next couple of years, I think.
Dan, before you leave, would you want to give a report on our committee for the building stuff? Or can you do that right now?
I can, and we have
Just a
under the city's economic development umbrella, we have a task force working on housing. The overall objective is to take derelict properties in Holiday Island and otherwise unproductive lots in Holiday Island and make them available at some incentive, financial arrangement to prospective builders that would build, single-family residences on those lots. We've met, how many times did we meet? Just once so far.
Just one. We're going to meet on the 29th again.
The 29th, we're going to meet again. We have a list of lots, I believe you
Yeah,
guys
getting
put
the list of the
together
lots.
A list of lots that HICID is sitting on that could be put into that program. We have a list of about 20 delinquent or distressed properties that have burned out trailers, burned out houses, stuff like that, abandoned trailers. We're going to try to contact those property owners and see if they would just donate those lots to the cause in exchange for having the contractor clean them up as their part of the commitment to the overall project. Relieves the property owner of the cost of having to clean it up, relieves the city of the cost of having to clean it up and put a lien against the property, which means we probably never see our money, and things like that. So this can be a real win-win if we can make it work. So we're going to start looking at those properties on the 29th when we meet again. We have, on this task force, we have people that are in the real estate business, we have people that are in the mortgage financing business, we have builders, we have HICID and city representatives, so it's a kind of a cross-functional team of people that have experience in how to get properties and buildings and buyers for those buildings.
And then, we're really looking at, we have a builder that builds houses. He's built some houses here in Holiday Island. And he's adamant that he can build these houses. He says, he builds houses by himself, and he has a complete crew that'll put together the house. I mean, they do it all. I mean, and it's not just, it's not just done in a year. It's done in a matter of like months. Yeah, and there'll be a house there. And then he'll sell that house. And what we're doing is trying to use those lots as an incentive so that the guy can get financing to, we're not going to say, hey, you can buy this lot for $100. We want this guy to use this lot that we're going to grant him. If we do a grant, and if it's valued at $15,000, he can use, after it's cleaned up, he can use that as this down payment in order to get that, and that's what we're looking at right now. So I think it's in the planning stage, and I think it looks good to me, and I think we get that list of maybe 20 properties that a possibility that we can contact those owners, and I think it looks good to me that we can make this thing work, because I believe that if we could get 20 houses a year built in Holiday Island, it would be a great thing over 10 years.
Have you checked in the Commissioner of State lands?
We have not.
No. I just wondered if you
that's,
looked.
That's another resource for properties. There's a lot of details to work out. This is only the second time we're meeting. Before any action is taken, any properties exchange hands or anything like that. And we're gonna have to have a well-detailed, documented program that this is how the program works, so that everybody knows what they're committing to if they participate in the program. And then we'll have to have legal counsels from HISED and the city review that too, again, to make sure that, that we're doing everything legal. Because if for no other reason, that was one of the issues in Cherokee Village, where the Suburban Improvement District was working with a real estate company to market their turnback lots. And they got sued over that because I guess some property owners thought that the district didn't have the authority to pay realtor fees to sell lots. So there's always something.
So if we put the plan together and put it in writing and got the details worked out, we can hand that plan basically to, say Randy was thinking about buying a lot or building a house. We can hand that plan to him and say, here's the plan that we have laid out, and here's how it works. And that way they can apply for money from a bank or a lending company of whatever they want. And so that's kind of how what we're aimed at. And I think it's a good plan.
Obviously, it would have to be available to the public. Any builder, any potential owner would have to be able to participate in it. We're not doing this exclusively to benefit one particular builder. If several builders want to participate, the more the better. And there's going to have to be a follow-on process of who's going to manage the program, and it's probably going to have to be maybe a two-person committee between HISED and the city to manage the program. So a lot of work to do yet, but I think it's got the opportunity to get some of our derelict properties cleaned up, and which all by itself is a hindrance to people building right now in certain parts of Holiday Island, because there's just too many derelict properties in those neighborhoods.
So we can clean up those properties and get those things in order and get the Scott contractor to clean those lots off. And if we can purchase those from the property owners, I think we got a big start in where we're going.
Yep.
And that's our plan for a year is 20.
Yeah, a lot of them lots, just a little bit of grubbing, drubbing can go a long ways on a lot of these lots.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that's basically the report from our committee.
Okay. Next on the agenda is to talk about the water rates for Bill, formerly known as Peachtree. Currently, the water rates that Bill has one water meter for that entire building. If you took 50 houses and gave them water, they pay $19.67 for the first 1,500 gallons, and they pay $11.55 for the other 1,500 gallons, based at $7.70 per 1,000 gallons. So they pay a total of $31.22 for 3,000 gallons of water. That's a single family residence, which equates to $374 a year. Or if you hooked up 50 single family homes for 3,000 gallons per home, they would spend $18,732 for water. If we did the same 3,000 gallons per month per unit at build, they pay the $19.67 one time because they have one meter, And then they pay an additional $11.55 for the other 1,500 gallons, which would be the same as a single family. But 50 units at 3,000 gallons a month, which we're figuring, I looked at my water bill, and for two of us, we run about 3,000 gallons a month. I looked at the average online. They say it's 60 gallons per month, or I'm sorry, 60 gallons per day per person, which is 120 gallons for two people for one day, or 3,600 gallons per month. So I based all these comparisons on 3,000, which is kind of conservative. Peachtree, in our water building, there's a break at 28,000. So the first 3,000 gallons would cost them $31.22. The next 28,000 gallons is billed at $7.70 per thousand, which is $215. The next 118,500 gallons, we reduced the rate to $3.85 per thousand, which is a total of $456.22. Or it comes out to $703.04 per month. Times 50 units, Peachtree, for just water, would pay $8,436 for 50 units. 50 homes would pay $18,732. So there's a $10,295 difference between what multifamilies are paying and what single families are paying. And the same thing holds true pretty much for the sewer. They get charged $12.36 for the first 1,500 gallons. Then it's it's $4.85 per thousand. And that's as far as it goes. It drops to $4.85, and there's no rate lower than that. There's only two rates on the sewer. But in any event, the single-family homes, for 50 of them, they would pay $11,778 just for sewer. Build would pay for that same amount of sewage $8,790. Which is a difference of $2,987. So if you compare Peachtree with 50 units to 50 single-family units, there's a difference of about $13,000 a year that they're getting, that there are less than 50 homes. And I think that as Bill starts leasing properties, we need to deal with, are we charging enough for our water for that multifamily structure? Personally, I don't think we are. I think that they need to be paying basically the same as 50 homes. The significant difference is 50 homes each are required to pay a minimum of $19.67 a month. Peachtree pays that $19.67 one time. The rest is strictly water usage. There's no more padding of that $19.67 for the first 1,500 gallons. It's not just water. That pays for some overhead and other things that goes on in the water department. But also I know that we need to stay with 110% on the costs to stay in line with what the state regulations are. So I'm asking the board, how do we fix this, change it, or what do we do with it, or we leave it alone? Now I talked to Regina in the water department, and I'm not sure how many other units there are around Holiday Island that are the same thing with the water. As far as 1 meter and multiple units on the same meter. I think some of these are individually metered, and I don't know of any others that are 50 units on 1 meter. You, Dan?
The only one that I would think of is, down on Woodsdale near the, I think the restaurant and that apartment building are on the same meter.
The old farmhouse.
Huh?
The old farmhouse?
Yeah.
Yep, it's on 1 meter.
What about the assistant?
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a comment. That brings back to my point that the sewer and the water, whenever you charge for the sewer based on the water rate, if in fact that I don't flush my stool nearly as often, say that I use 1,000 gallons a month, and that's all I use, well, you know, I'm gonna pay, my sewer cost is, that pipe coming to my house costs everybody the same amount of money. So my suggestion is we charge a flat rate for the sewer for everybody, and we do not base it on water usage, because I don't care whether you run a gallon through there or 5,000 gallons, it doesn't make any difference. The sewer cost, the plant cost is exactly this much. And if we don't, we can't give a break just because you don't use much water. Because when I water my garden, I'm getting charged a charge for that, and it's not going into the sewer because I don't have it metered separately.
Yeah,
That's why we do afford a separate water hookup just for exterior irrigation.
yeah, irrigation meter.
But how would you,
Irrigation meter.
Well, yeah, there's no sewer on that charge.
but how would you determine, that comes out of a garden hose, how would you determine what kind of meter you would put on that faucet on the outside?
Most irrigation meters are a separate meter in the front yard, then they're rent just to an Iowa hydrant out in the yard. And they're not
Wouldn't it
tied
be a
in
lot
with that.
simpler, in my case with all that cement there's no way they could get, they'd have to go way out around it. Wouldn't it simpler just to make a flat charge, so everybody pays the same amount for the sewer?
I've
I mean, that's
never
fine.
heard of a city doing a flat rate on a sewer. All sewers are all based off of
Well, we did
percentage
it
of gallons
back
of
in our
water.
town.
Yeah,
We
that's-
base it on, everybody paid the same, because, just because I don't flush my stool as often, or I don't use much water, and I conserve my water and I don't use, and we had people that would use a couple, 300 gallons a month, I don't know how they ever went to the bathroom. So, I mean, when you do stuff like this, I think that's where we can gain a lot of money and it's fair and equitable to everybody.
I think because we have the water department here, maybe he can shed some light on the cost of sewage. As to, can we do a flat rate on sewage?
Please. And real quick on your math stuff here, Randy. Peach Street, they have 2 meters, which is going to change the math just a little bit, but not much. Just so you know.
Yeah, it'll change it by $20.
Yeah.
Because it was like the
1967.
I mean, I have to agree with Rich. I've never heard of it, a flat rate.
Well, I guess,
Percentage of water.
for you to treat 5,000 gallons of sewage, obviously it costs more than to treat 400 gallons of sewage.
Not really.
No, not really. It's, I mean, right now, today, with all this rain we're having, I mean, we're treating 1 million gallons right now, as of today,
Because of the rainwater.
because of the rain.
I don't know of any other way to charge for sewage other than water usage based on a meter.
That's unless you use a flat rate for every household. That would allow you for every apartment is a flat rate for sewer and water. And you wouldn't have all this, well, is this the right amount or is this the wrong amount? I think those are the things you could do that would certainly alleviate that problem.
So, I'm not sure on that, but going back and looking at, our HICID regs, going back to the original question that you had there, Randy, of how do we handle multi-unit versus a
Well,
single?
my question is, are the charges equitable as we see it right now?
Well, under the definitions, under the Water and Sewer Department for a section of our HICID regs, when you look at a unit means one parcel of real property in a single or common ownership, or in the case of multi-residential lots, each individual apartment, condominium or complex, etc., or condominium complex in a single or common ownership. So unit, maybe I'm misreading that then the second time. Because it says a unit means one parcel of real property in a single or common ownership. Or, in the case of a multi-residential lot, each individual apartment, condominium, apartment complex, or condominium complex in a single or common ownership.
And your point is,
Well, I was thinking that we could charge each individual, in case each individual apartment. That's what I'm saying. So each individual apartment is a unit.
but it's not metered that way, so there's no way to do that.
Why? If you have 50 units, or I don't know how many apartments Peachtree has.
50, they have 50 units.
So 50 units, so then they're each, whether we have a meter or not, they should be a flat rate to address that, because they still have to be addressed as they're not one meter, it doesn't base on a meter. The definition says it's on the unit. It says, that's in our regs right there, the definition. So I'm just saying, so they should be, if they're not being counted individually right now, they should be according to our own regs.
What's the difference between now and before we were charging Peachtree?
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like we were just charging based on the meter right now.
Peachtree was paying one bill a month, right?
And
2 bills, 2 meters, 2 bills.
2 bills a month. What's the difference then and now?
Going back to what he's raising with the equity issue of how much gallons are being used.
You send the guy that owns the place a bill, he said.
You wanna come up to the mic? Come up to the microphone?
They won't be able to hear your question. But, so what I'm saying is, that whether or not it wasn't, you're right, we send him a bill, to your point, and we would send Peachtree a bill, say you have 50 units, here's your cost, pay it.
Before we even got into this, okay, we were sending Peachtree a bill. You said 2 bills, right? They would pay the bill. Why don't we do the same now? Send this builder a bill. He collects the money from all of his residents. Okay? He's the one who's got to equal it out.
I don't think I'm disagreeing with you, and I think that supports what I'm saying by a unit. We're saying Peachtree, Bill, you have 50 units. Your cost share for 50 units is X amount of dollars.
So,
however you do your rent, you need to incorporate that.
And that should be his responsibility. He pays the bill, and he cost shares everybody else around him.
I agree, but we need to tell him what that cost is what I'm trying to say. And now he is based on 50 units or however he is, this is how much you need to pay based on you have more than one unit.
Well, the number two reason why you do that is there's no way, if just say Randy doesn't pay his bill for that apartment, and we're billing him individual, how are we gonna shut off Randy's sewer or water? We can't do it. So you charge the builder, or you charge the owner of that property. If it's 50 units, and I'm just gonna throw out a figure, $1, okay, just say it was $1, which is gonna be a lot more than that, but that's, $50 a month. And he pays us, he collects them when he collects his rent.
See, that's, okay. So, we send builders 2 water bills every month. So right now, there's no water being used, so we send him $45.44. As he starts getting tenants in there, he still pays the water bill. So if he doesn't pay the water bill, his water gets shut off. It don't matter about his tenants at all. We don't care if the tenants pay rent or anything. As long as he pays the water bill, the water stays on because both water bills are in his name. So that part of the tenant's not paying or anything, that doesn't have anything to do with this because he still has to pay his water bill every month no matter what. So if we took, from what Randy's saying, And if we could somehow magically say, okay, you have to pay $19.67 for every apartment in that building, it'd be $983.50 every month just for that part of it. And then you'd have the water rate on top of that for every 30,000 or whatever it is. I don't know if we could write a regulation to say, okay, you have this many units, you have 1 meter, you have to pay $19.67 25 times for this water bill, then you have to pay $25, $19.67 25 times for this water bill. But then you'd have to write it in your regulations that way, like farmhouse. Okay, you have how many residents living in that apartment, plus the restaurant, plus the apartment there. You've got 8 people. You got to pay $19.67 for every person living in an apartment. Peachtree, that would fall way different. So that's what you'd have to write. So people have to pay $19.67 for every apartment on a single meter. So every duplex, if a duplex has 1 meter out front and it feeds 2 apartments, you'd have to charge them $19.67 for each apartment.
You should do that.
That's the thing.
Fair to fair and equal to everybody.
If you could write, but see, then your sewer rate is still going to be based off of gallons. It wouldn't have anything to do with your sewer rate. That'd just be on the water. Well, your sewer rate is what, minimum? $12.36. I mean, there you go. You can write another regulation for $12.36 for apartment.
But I guess I'm missing this. Our regs already say that we should be doing this. We haven't been doing this, is what we're saying.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm reading what
that's what you read.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm basing this off of. But there's always that gray line. That's why we'd have to go through it. We'd have to rewrite that regulation to state, if you have 1 meter, put 25 people or apartments in that 1 meter, you have to pay $19.67 per apartment. And then it would affect every condo, every rate.
Or we can write that it only affects buildings with 35 tenants or more.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You cannot take and write it for one company and not another.
It should be across the board, which is I keep referring to what we already have, and that's my only issue. The fact that we may or may not have been doing it that way, it sounds like we haven't been doing that way.
Yeah.
We should be doing it.
That's the only thing, Randy, is if we write it in the regulations, it has to go for everybody with multiple units on 1 water meter.
I agree, because it will affect other water users. So whatever we do in Peachtree could have ramifications for other properties that we're not even thinking about.
Yes.
And that's why I asked Dan how many other units are like Peachtree.
Well, like the farmhouse, we know for sure.
You got Prestige.
Right over here.
Yeah.
Prestige is the same. I don't know about Table Rock Landing.
I think they're on individual meters.
Are they?
We got these apartments right here,
Yeah, the ones right out the back door here.
another one's over here. Or-
Hillside.
Well, that's why we need to have a flat rate. And a flat rate is what we charge. And we won't have a problem with it. It's simple. We did it, we increased our revenue and sewer and water revenue substantially. And we paid for the new lagoon systems and all that stuff. So we paid for a lot of those stuff by having a flat rate, because we just about doubled our sewer and water income per month.
You know, if you look at your water bill, okay, you see this 19 something here, 12 something for sewer, then you have a security fee, then you have this and this and this. We haven't even talked about the excess taxes that this builder is gonna have to start paying, you know, on each individual gallon that you buy.
Well, so you're gonna basically have to put those charges on everybody.
Exactly. So we just started with this, and now we're here. We still have 5 more steps to get to that you haven't even discussed yet. Let's go back to the original point. Whatever bill they get for the water, at the new building over there, send him a bill, let him take care of individuals.
That's exactly what I said.
Because I
don't have
pay
anything to do with it.
about $75 a month for water. That's just two people. And I minimize the water that I use. Okay? Now you have 50 to 100 to 200 people sitting out there. They're gonna use the excess amount of water, and we're just gonna build them a flat rate? No, it doesn't work that way. So we
I
send,
think what we're trying to say though is that each unit has the 1967 on top of there's.
we understand that, but you're trying to justify sending them a bill for this amount of money.
Not the each unit themselves, the owner of the building would be the one that would pay that.
Didn't I just say that? We send them one bill.
Right.
It's $10,000, this is $10,000 for a month, which is,
Carl, what he's saying is he wants a flat rate on sewer.
no, I'm not even talking about sewer.
Well, that's what he wants.
Well, I understand, but
Now, what you're saying,
okay. But we send
Lord help me.
the builder out there one bill, which is equal to what 50 houses are gonna pay.
Well, how much is that flat rate?
Oh, whatever we need.
That's what he's saying. It's not equal to what the cows are gonna pay. That's what he's saying.
We have to determine if we do a flat rate, what that's gonna amount to per resident, or per apartment, or per condo, or just per resident. If it's a resident and say, just say, I don't remember what our water bill is, but it seems like whatever the water bill is on the average, that's what a flat rate would have to be. I mean, you look up and say, well, it costs this guy $85 and it costs this guy $25 or $30 based on their water usage. That sewer system is the same cost to the $85 guy as it is for the $30 guy. So we need, if we had a flat rate, say $60, or whatever that may be, whatever that figure is determined.
No one is ever gonna pay $60 for a sewer bill.
What's that?
No one will ever pay $60 for a sewer.
I'm just saying for sewer, just water based on the water usage. I'm not including all the other fees, because there's a lot more fees on there.
Well, you got tax, health fee, and the sewer debt.
Exactly, but those have to be put on top of that flat rate.
Right. And now we have $3.54 for the UV treatment,
Yeah, that's right.
as well as $12.24 for the sewer debt.
That's my point, is we're adding all this stuff and we're not charging any more money to every homeowner. It's not fair and equitable to every taxpayer. It should be fair and equitable to every taxpayer in Holiday Island. They should pay their fair share of what what the cost is of providing that service.
I still think that the only fair way to do it is based on the meter. You're charged on what you use.
Then we're gonna have to put 50 meters in to those apartments.
No. We're sending one bill to build. How he collects his money from each tenant, that's his.
Well, we're gonna have to have a rate of what it is.
Didn't I just say that?
You're gonna have some kind of idea what that flat rate's gonna be per unit.
Well, I've raised the issue. Whether we do anything, right now it's status quo, we'll just do what we have been in the past. I'm raising the issue that I don't think we're charging enough for these units.
You don't know what it's gonna, what the final bill's gonna be though. You can speculate all you want, but you're not gonna know until the first 3, 4, 5 months what their average bill is gonna be. Right?
By the time the apartments get filled up and start using water usage, you're not gonna know exactly.
But we can look at the water usage, whatever, if they've got 10 tenants in it right now, we can look at that average and say, okay, this is what we're gonna charge you for the first 6 months or whatever. And then based on new calculations, it may go up or it may go down, based on what that usage involved per person that you have. But you're gonna have one bill, one total bill, and he's gonna bill all of his people. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. I mean, just crunching some numbers here. You're taking his minimum water bill of $45.44 a month. Well, add them up, so $100. You're taking his two water bills, that's almost $100 a month, and you're changing that. If you did it per unit, you're changing his minimum water bill per month to be $2,064. So that's quite a difference, and that's not even including the usage of water. I mean, that's just with the minimal first 28,000 gallons.
Well, every time he hooks up somebody, we have to, that's what we'd have to base it on and say, okay, it's $50, $45 per person, or per apartment that you have rented, because you're not gonna use water in those other apartments. So as quick as he has, so we need a total on a month. If he has 30 apartments, then he gets billed for 30, and if he gets 40, we bill for 40. If he gets 50.
And every month, you're gonna go there and do a head count, see how many people are in the apartments?
So he's gonna have to give us those figures.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
That's the way it water
He
gets.
doesn't have to report who's living there.
Well, you're gonna have to bill it somehow.
Through the water, it's the water.
Through the water.
Sure. Then you're just gonna give him the total $2,000 a month and be flat with it.
$400 or $2,000 a month.
So right now he's got 2 meters
Yeah,
at $45.44 each.
this is $100 a month.
Yeah, $100 a month. So if you charge him per unit, the 19 for water, the 12 for sewer, plus the sewer net, you're looking at his minimum water bill would be $2,064.
$2,054?
64 a month
It should be.
for both meters. And that's with the minimum of 28,000 gallons.
That's $41 per unit.
That's not out of line.
Well, they haven't bought any water yet.
No, they haven't bought water yet. That's just the,
That's just the best rate.
But everybody else pays that fee. Why are we not charging everybody?
that's $41 for 28,000 gallons, right? So that's based off of 28,000 gallons, right?
So you're getting some water in that.
Wait a minute. What is that now?
So your 1967
Right?
is your minimum weight, or your minimum rate
For 1 meter.
for 1 meter. Minimum charge first 1,500 gallons. So you're getting that 1967s for your first 1,500 gallons.
Right.
So you get them are what? 1-bedroom apartments?
I'm sorry?
Are them 1-bedroom units?
It's a mix. There's several different ones, but they'll average 2 people per unit.
Yeah. So an average person, let's say, uses 3,000 gallons. So yeah. So that's just, each apartment's gonna pay 40. We're basically gonna get $41 each unit with 1,500 gallons. And then you start taking, and he's actually gonna pay for every amount of water that's used after that 1,500 gallons out of his pocket that he's getting for rent.
Well, I know my sewer and water bill's a whole lot more than $44 a month.
Well, yeah, I've got 2 of mine right here. 165, 172.
So that's not out of line at all. And that's why you either have to have just a 1 fee to this guy, and he collects it, because he's charging the rent anyhow. He adds it onto his rent, just like these apartments down here.
I mean, he's still getting a water bill paid no matter what. I don't give 2 things about his rent or what he charges for rent, because he still has to pay that water bill. So when he gets for rent. But we need to write regulations that way he understands that when he starts renting these complexes out, he needs to set his price an additional $50 more a unit or $60 more a unit just to cover the water and the sewer.
Correct.
Because he's basing it off of 45, 44, or whatever his water bill's gonna be.
And I just want to put this caveat in there that we're talking the bills right now. But again, this whatever we do is going to affect everybody else. It was only set.
Absolutely.
It's only going to set their. Well, it's you set your rates. for rent, I mean, these are business owners.
Well,
They're
yeah,
basically
but-
already set their, you know, so I'm just
Why
saying.
should somebody get a better break than I do?
We're not saying
I'm
that
not-
great, what we're saying is that people are already renting these properties out at a certain cost.
Based on a known.
Based
fact.
on
They're
known
gonna have to
facts.
ra- they're
Now,
gonna
if
have
we
to
turn,
raise their-
well, you can't just turn around and raise rent on people, that's illegal.
Yeah.
There's a whole, you
not-
know,
Well, you have to
time
do it the
when-
right process.
I understand, that's what we're saying.
We're
So
saying that.
if we're gonna turn around and bump this up on all of these different homeowners and all of these different properties, we need to at least, if that's the case, then we need to at least give them a time of adjustment so that they can make the adjustments on their side, so that we're not turning around, because if we turn around and do this all in one fell swoop, and all these property owners, these people that are renting properties, who knows, that could break their bank, that could break them. They're not able to pay their rent. You're thinking of just the one bill, you're thinking of the money part, and I
I'm
get
not
that.
able to pay my bills then either.
How, based off of what? I mean, that's just a little ridiculous, let's be honest.
That's not fair and equitable to all the taxpayers.
I'm not, what I'm saying is that you give the homeowners and business owners a chance to be able to give their renters fair warning that
We
they're
do
renting
that. I'm
out.
not saying we don't do that. I'm saying we need to instigate the policy that this is what we're gonna do.
We're not saying that we're not gonna do that.
Right.
That's never been the comment. The comment is, if we're going to do this, we need to figure out a fair and equitable way to do it to the other property owners who own multi-units, as well as the renters who live and work in this community.
Well, everybody ought to be paying their fair and equitable share. And it's been for a long time, this has been kicked down the road. That's why we're in the situation we are right now.
Wow, I didn't know this was gonna be such an ugly subject to talk about, was this the water?
Can I make
Sure, Dan.
one observation?
Yeah.
I appreciate the comments about the impact on rent, because I know that the people that bought the Peachtree facility, you know, they're putting a lot of money into that building based on a financial pro forma that they presented to their lenders that probably was based on what the old Peachtree organization was paying for rent. So if you spring on them, you know, $50 a month, that doesn't fit into their target demographics for renters and stuff like that, that building could stand in half empty, they'll go broke, and then we'll have nothing but, you know, another derelict property to consider. It's always been true everywhere that the more water you use, the better rate you get. If you didn't have industrial and commercial rates for water, you wouldn't have any industrial or commercial uses. And with the, you know, relative to the comment about being kicked down the road, this whole thing about metering multi-unit buildings hasn't been kicked down the road. I've been around this thing for 10 years now, and I've never heard it discussed before. So it's never been kicked down the road. And I, as a former BOC member, I kind of take exception to that.
Dan, is it your opinion we should leave the water rates the way they are?
I just think it needs to, you for sure need to talk to, well, the two biggest ones that are gonna be impacted are Peachtree and Prestige. And we all know that nursing homes run on a razor thin margin right now. You know, that's why Peachtree went out of business, because they couldn't make money. If we, you know, force $50 a month extra cost per unit on Peachtree, they may not be able to absorb that.
The other thing about Prestige is their bed turnover. I mean, a lot of times they don't even have a person in that bed for a full month to even compromise or, you know, be part of that. That's another fine line you gotta look at too.
Yeah.
Ken Brown, 6 Point Lane. I had a comment about the irrigation pipe. I've been in my home 18 years now. We got there about a year later and I put in the blue pipe, I call it. And we don't have any grass, we just have flower beds. But it was $750 to run a meter and a hose from the current meter over toward my driveway so I could cover the yard. And every month it was $15 a month, including winter when we're not using it. That's fine. But I felt that was a better investment than having paid for sewer out of water that came out of the spigot from the side of the house. So $750, and then it was $15 a month forever. And then about 2-3 years ago, I think, we raised it to $5, and now it's $20. But I felt financially for my family and my bill that was the way to go. So if you charge a flat rate, what am I going to do? It wouldn't make any sense to have this blue pipe in my yard, would it? You know, and I don't know how many of them we have. And I don't know how many we have. Regina could tell us, but there's a lot of them around the city.
But you wouldn't have it, you'd have a flat rate, everybody would pay the same, and your rate might go down, or it might stay the same, or I don't think, it may go up, it may go down, that would have to be looked at.
The other thing, and I'm not disagreeing with Rich or Dan, because they're the water experts, but when I was on the board every Friday, we signed checks, and we signed a check to take matter over to County Town as it been. So the more we put through the water and sewer plant, the more it costs us, right?
Yeah. To a certain extent.
So it costs more the more product you put through the sewer plant, it is costing.
It costs a little more, but there's a place where it does and it doesn't. It costs so much to operate the thing, period.
I guess I'm at the point where we just leave the water bills the way they are. And I'm looking at what a person would spend for just water and sewer with one unit, as it's set up right now, just water and sewer, would be about $29,000 a month. And that doesn't include their share of sewer debt, UV treatment debt, or a health fee, or a tax. So I guess realistically, if this was $35 a month per unit, maybe that's realistic, and maybe that's what they should be paying. I don't know that apartment people are gonna pay $50 a month for water, when that's what a lot of people pay in a single-family home. And I recall at Peachtree, each one of those units had washers and dryers. I thought they had a laundry room downstairs.
No, I think, it seems to me they have washers and dryers.
And dishwashers?
No, my mother-in-law lived there, so they have community, I'm sorry. They have community, laundry rooms. I do believe though that the builders are back installing, the water lines or something to each of the kitchenettes that they have. Not all of them had those lines connected when it was, assisted living. Does that make sense? So yeah, so washer and dryers, that is community.
Okay.
But the kitchenettes, if they didn't have water lines, some of them didn't, I guess, and the stoves were taken out, they're putting all those back in to make them functioning kitchenettes in each apartment.
Well, in doing some research for this, the biggest water use in any unit is toilets. The biggest user, it actually takes 21% of your water bill is flushing the toilet, which I didn't realize that. So it doesn't matter if you're in a single family or a multifamily, you're gonna flush the toilet the same amount of times.
So you bringing this up on, putting this on the work session, I just didn't know where we were gonna go with this, but you
kinda wish I wouldn't.
No, actually, yes, because you brought up a valuable point, and this is something that we need to look at. So once Peachtree gets up and going, and the place is full, let's say they even get 30 to 40 people in there, we can look at their water bill and see what they're running, what rate they're running. If we look at this, and let's say a year, they get up and going and complete full, and their water bill is significantly lower because they're using the 30,000 plus gallons, we could actually, I mean, you brought this to our attention, so now we could actually say, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to write regulations, say multi-unit facilities have to pay this much more above their water bill. So, I mean, the fact that you brought this up and brought to everybody's attention of what the minimum bill is going to be, that way in a year when they are up and going and we're saying that they're only paying this much, now we know what we're going to deal with and what we got to do.
I would agree with that, but I kind of think, I don't think it's gonna change much from what it was when it was Peachtree. Even though I kind of think it will increase. When it was Peachtree, I don't know if those people were as active in doing things that younger people that are gonna rent these units will. I don't know.
They're not gonna have a kitchen. When it was Peachtree, they used a lot of dishwashing, they had a full functioning kitchen to feed everybody. Last I heard, builders is not install, or they're not having a functioning kitchen, and they get used.
Each apartment will have their own kitchenette.
Right, but I'm just saying that they're not, I don't know what they're doing with the kitchen that exists.
The overall water.
But they made it pretty clear, at least when they did it, that they're not doing any kind of kitchen, usage. So I don't know if it's like, maybe they have a potluck or something one day, but it's not gonna be a functioning, but there's not gonna be a functioning daily, every meal kitchen, which would use a lot of water for dishes, for.
You're talking about a community kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what it was, yeah, but that's what.
Yeah, that's what it was, but these kids are.
But it
That's my point,
was.
the water usage is my point, when it was Peachtree, it's gonna significantly come down, because it's not 3 square meals a day using.
For each resident.
For each resident, well, yeah, to feed each resident, does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess, Rich is right, maybe in 6 months or a year from now, we can look at those comparisons and say, yeah, they're using a lot more water, or they're not using near as much. So maybe it is, maybe it's time just to table this until we see a 30 or 40% occupancy rate in that building, and then maybe we look at it.
At least we know.
Any comments?
I have a question. When Peachtree decided to renovate the building, did they have to go through any kind of a large-scale development approval before they started building? Was this addressed at that time?
I don't know that I understand the question, but
So,
basically the use stayed the same. So we didn't go through a bunch of,
They didn't have to have any kind of permits?
oh yeah,
They could get-
so,
go ahead.
so I guess what I'm asking real quick is, are you asking like when Peachtree was first developed in the 80s or just now since it's changed hands?
Now that it's changed hands,
Okay.
the use has changed.
Yeah, we did not issue a building permit for what's going on in Peachtree. It's a commercial renovation. We basically have a residential, building code in Holiday Island. We don't have a commercial building code. Didn't, up until this point, didn't need one, I guess. They did get an electrical permit to do some wiring because they're putting, I guess they're putting each unit on its own electrical meter. And that was a pretty major thing. But as far as the plumbing and the superficial renovation that they're doing, that doesn't require a building permit as our building code stands right now. Their project got to be a lot more complicated than what they originally thought because they had a major water leak in the middle of the winter when nobody was there. Did a lot of damage to the building, and that set them back probably 6 months on getting the project done. So it ended up being much more, not as superficial as what they originally thought, but still, they're not doing any new construction, so we didn't issue a permit.
And then my my thought is if a building like this has been converted to a different use, he just said that there's an electric meter for each unit, why couldn't we require them to put in a water meter for each unit going forward? That would solve that.
They're putting in electrical to each unit was not a requirement of the city, that was something they did on their
No,
own.
but the power company might have required that. I don't.
No, that was just so that they can individually meter each one. The water is far more difficult to do
Yeah.
and
I
much more
would
costly than the power. Apparently what I saw or heard was the power was pretty easy to get at and access to do this, the individual meters, whereas the water would have been a total nightmare to do that, to try and individually meter each apartment.
say, I understand. Maybe something to look at in the future, when we come to get a permit to build a multi-use building. would
Needs a
require
flat
meter.
rate, that's what it needs.
Well, a meter for each unit, and then it's satisfied. I would think this would be.
You might as well take that mic with you.
Let me, just following up on that thought, my original comments before about, being a little bit cautious about what we spring on these Peachtree renovation guys here and kind of in the 25th hour of their project. I didn't mean that we shouldn't consider some sort of equitable plan for, let's say somebody wants to come in here and build a hotel. Just dream big that somebody wants to come in here and build a hotel and they put 1 meter to that building. I would think that it would be appropriate to have a regulation that says that you pay, so much per, for the main meter plus so much for every room. I don't see that would be a problem, but it's different if you're an investor and you know that going in, as opposed to, okay, I'm spending $1 million, I'm $900,000 into my project, and now somebody comes along and, throws a monkey wrench into my business plan. That's what I'm saying, is that we need to be cautious about how we're impacting the existing businesses. But I think it's very, very reasonable to look at a regulation going forward that says, new installations or something pay a flat rate plus so much per unit or something like that.
Well, I think that they're not gonna stay at that same rent for the next 100 years. They're gonna raise it as needed. So what's the difference?
The difference is they haven't rented 1 room yet.
Well, when they do get them, I'm saying, when they do get them going, that's what we need to work after this. Not, we need to have a plan of how we're gonna do that. That's what you would agree with too?
All things change over time. It's just that you gotta be careful.
Okay. I think we've talked this to death, and I don't think there's anything that we can do about it immediately, and maybe we'll look at it in 6 months in another work session and review their water and sewer bills and see what they are, and see how they compare with what Peachtree did in the past.
Do they get one rate on their cost of, that it cost me $800 a month for the lot? Is that what they're gonna pay for each building? So that they get in other words, what we charge per household, per lot, we charge $855, is that correct? Whatever that figure may be.
You're talking about your assessment?
Assessment, yes. So, we're gonna charge them one assessment for 50 homes, so that means they could go to the, if they buy one golf membership, is that gonna be equitable? Don't they have?
No, the people that are residents of that building will pay,
The same 1,500,
they'll pay on a guest rate.
yeah, for family.
Because the owners of that building are the homeowner, and everybody that lives there is a guest.
You're opening a whole can of worms there.
Well,
I mean, that's even going to be a darker hole than the water situation.
oh, geez.
Yeah. And this is something else. This is we're going to have to figure out because you got 50 units and you got under one person's name. I mean,
Property owners, so.
exactly.
The builder is.
They live here. They don't pay the ABO or ABO. Well, yeah, I'm so frustrated just yeah. I mean, you got me so frustrated just thinking about it. I mean, that's gonna be a big wormhole. That I mean, are we gonna charge them a property owner rate for a membership, even though they're not technically a property owner?
Well,
Why would any of that change in terms of like we have the other apartment complex,
Right.
we have duplexes for
I
rent, we have
agree.
everything else? Why would any of that change
Why would
just
it
because it's an apartment complex?
Right,
It still would fall under the same guidelines as any other
Any
renter,
other
any other renter
I
has.
agree.
It's not a can of worms we even need to get to because
Okay.
we already have that
I agree.
situation with all the other houses that we rent here.
Every other rental we have, yeah.
Sure.
I guess we'll cross that bridge.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you're probably right. I don't even want to think about it.
Any other discussion topics on through the agenda here, what I have?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the, if you all looked on your, whatever, I don't go on that stuff and look at all these, things on the internet, but there was a big discussion about the apartments downstairs. If you read that, that we're charging $300 a month for that apartment down there, and that's includes utilities, that includes all their rent, their water, their sewer, their electricity. $300 a month, but the average is about $750. And that's what we're charging is $300 a month. We say, well, that was included in his salary. Well, maybe 20 years ago that might have been okay, but I don't think it's okay today. I think we're not fair and equitable to all the taxpayers by charging. We own those apartments down there, and we're not getting our proper amount of money. And if we have to pay, they're not paying their cost of for the golf course. They're not, if they want to be a member of the golf course, all they got to do, they're a renter, so they have to pay the same fee as I do. But they don't get charged $850 a month for their residence. That's unfair.
$850 a year.
Well, a year, right, and not a month, but
Rich, how many of those apartments are rented out currently?
one.
Is that your point?
Why have we not rented out the other ones?
Because in all the other contracts that we've seen, the apartments were based off of use of employees that needed to use them, not for public use. So then Dave Treat is the employee right now
That's
uses that.
correct. We had some people that were not employees down there.
Yes, we did. We had a deputy sheriff that was down there.
That was employed by the city.
No, they're employed by Carroll County Sheriff's Department.
That we was utilizing because we were when he rented it, we were paying part of his salary. Because we shared the police department one time, right? So the contract states it's for employee use only. So like there's been employees.
What contract is that? I mean,
The one that was written by Blood and then redone by Presley, and that's what I'm going off of.
And that needs to be changed because you cannot charge somebody $300, if you figure out that $300 a month for rent, the average is $750, so that means that about $5,500 a year that's added to his salary, then we need to give him a 1099 for that because that's part of his salary. And then we need to give him for the electricity, for his Wi-Fi, everything else. We need to get, that is all included in income, and we have not been given those people that rented that place, and we have those apartments down there to be rented out. Let's rent them out, let's change those details, and get those apartments rented out so we're fair and equal to all the taxpayers in Holiday Island.
I'll email you all the the contract and how it is, and that way you can look at it and then we can discuss it whenever. on
Well,
how
I
you
said,
want to
that's
approach
why
it.
it's a workshop, and we wanna talk about it. It was out in the public right now, if you read that on, whatever it is, they made a big deal, and I've had numerous people already ask me about it. And then I've had people ask me about, well, now we opened the restaurant, okay? Are we still giving all the employees a 50% discount in food?
Wow, when did we give them that? I might eat there every
Giving
freaking
a
lunch.
discount on food, whatever it was, I'm saying,
Yeah.
25?
I think
25
it's
or whatever.
20% employee.
we don't need to be giving that to anybody anymore. We've changed courses to the restaurant.
Are we giving discounts to the restaurant currently?
No. The only discounts we're giving right now, I believe, are just the people that are working at the restaurant, and it's 20%.
Good.
And then-
that problem solved.
Yeah.
The people at the restaurant get.
While they're working, so the hostess, the waitresses, and all that, while they're working, they get a 20% discount while on shift.
And that's the only people.
As far as I know, that's the only thing we're doing right now.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. I just was asked that question because it used to be that we had people coming up there taking carry-out food and they were getting a discount. Therefore, we were in competition with every other restaurant in Holiday Island because we're subsidizing the people that come up there and that work for us, and they were carrying out food to go at 50%. Now that we have steaks and everything else up there, and if we were still continuing that process, then
50% at?
what's that?
That's for,
50%.
I don't care.
That's for
Just
the
throwing out a figure,
Well,
okay?
you think it's wrong though.
Well, I don't care whether it's wrong
You're
or
so far
right.
off on everything.
It's
It's 10%. That's 10%.
I was throwing out a figure.
Yeah, we know your figures that you throw out there. It's 10%. 10% of $15 is only $1.50.
It shouldn't be
That's
any.
not gonna kill you.
Shouldn't be any.
It's not gonna kill you with that.
Shouldn't be any.
But yet, at the same time, okay, you expect me as an employee to donate my time to this community. And I have to
donate
wait,
my time
and I have to wait 18 months before I even get considered anything?
I donate my time and I don't get anything. I don't get a discount on
I
that.
can run for the board, okay? But I'm saying you can't say it's 50% when it's not 50%.
I was a
It's
fireman for
10%.
25 years.
I don't care about you're a fireman for 25 years. That was 30 damn years ago, okay? Things have changed.
I retired in 1994, so that's 30-some years ago.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make any
Didn't I
sense.
just say that? I retired in 1993, I'm still doing this damn job.
I'm upset with this whole thing.
You know, that we're not upset with this whole thing?
Yeah, I think that we need to be run like a business.
Yeah, let's just flat rate everything, right?
That could be possible.
Well, anything's possible. Well, is it gonna be probable though?
I'm not saying that should be a flat rate, I'm saying that we shouldn't be giving discounts to the restaurant after we put all that money into it. And we shouldn't be giving any kind of discount.
So I get $1.50 off on the burger. What
Don't make any
the hell
difference.
is that gonna do?
It's not fair and equal to every taxpayer. You know, if I gave every taxpayer in Holiday Island, I gave them free Wi-Fi, when's that gonna come? Every person that
And the
works.
last time we had this discussion about that apartment downstairs, you brought up as a guy making $51,000 a year, and he was paying $300 a month for that apartment down there. And you thought it wasn't right, okay? Which is the same thing you just said. We should be giving him a 1099 for the rent, the $400 a month, for his internet, for all this other stuff. We're not doing that. So,
We need to.
then do something about it. You know, the citizens of Holly Island come, we sit here, we listen to this, we talk an hour about the water rates in one place over there. What do we get done? Nothing. Okay? We sit there and people ask why are we digging holes out there? And I said, so we can get water, we can spend more water and stuff like that. And you're gonna complain about giving an employee a 10% discount at the restaurant. You're the ones that decided we're gonna spend, how much money do we spend at your restaurant? Nobody's been told how much, what's the last amount of money was spent. X amount of money, how much? Nobody's been told that.
Well, I can tell you, we can ask Rich, and we got all the figures.
Well, we were told $50,000 to renovate that place, so what is it up to now?
No, we're probably right at 52,000, because you can't count the food that we have replaced, and plus
No, I'm not talking about food, I'm just talking about.
the walk-in freezer was based off of the 3 other times it was passed to put
Yeah,
in.
we understand.
So yeah, I think right now we're at 52, not quite 52.
So we're right there.
Okay.
Any other items on the agenda that we want to discuss today?
I will bring up one thing. So Thursday, I worked on that PA system up there at the ballroom, and totally had to rewire the back of the stereo and the frequencies and change everything, and it is working very, very well right now. So please don't let anybody touch the back of the unit or the wires, because it was a hair-pulling experience to get all the frequencies set right. So, but it's working very good. When you play the stereo, the speakers up there will not carry the bass, so do not turn the bass up. So besides that,
Does the Wi-Fi work?
the wireless mics.
The Wi-Fi. The last group that was there, some guy had something, he was from Branson or something, and he couldn't get access to the Wi-Fi, which pretty much blew his show.
Oh, I don't know about the Wi-Fi. I'm just talking about the PA system. And I did put a Bluetooth adapter in there, so you could Bluetooth your phone off of it now, or you can direct wire into it.
Does the Wi-Fi carry over there?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So we're in good shape there.
Yeah, it carries over there, but probably just didn't have the password or anything like that, which...
Somebody told me in the last few days that we took a convection oven out of the ballroom kitchen and moved it to the other kitchen. Now the ballroom kitchen is not usable.
It's usable, it just doesn't have a convection oven. So we use that for the pizza because I was under the understanding that it was our oven. And then they were trying to tell me, well, Pat Elwood told me that 2 organizations went together and purchased one. So then once I knew that, Pat said he would do some checking on seeing about putting a smaller one back in there, but nothing else has been done with it.
Okay, so it's just a convection oven.
Yes.
Well, the convection oven was used by the Holiday Island Fire Department
Yes.
on our tournament to cook, which we now have to cook in the facility. Okay. I cannot make enough bread pudding, and it's just bread pudding, to serve 200 people at my house. So that convection oven was specifically used to bake items that we needed for the fire department.
And the main thing is we didn't sell the convection oven or we didn't throw the convection oven away. We just moved it 100 feet. So it can still be used for the fire auxiliary.
Can't we fix that food? Isn't the restaurant gonna provide all that stuff, and you're not gonna be able to carry in and out of food there anymore anyhow, are you?
Well, like fire auxiliary, I mean, there's certain organizations that under health rules, they can prepare their own food that they bring in there. And then the rates are going to be based off of us catering or us not catering.
If there's any food prepared anywhere else and brought in, it cannot be sold. You can give it away, but you can't sell it.
Exactly. And that's it. I mean,
And that's what stopped the soup thing, was they're making all this stuff at home and bringing it to the ballroom and then want to sell it.
Yep.
The health department does not allow for that.
yeah, if you're going to sell it, it has to be prepared on premises.
Correct. Anything else?
So, just, are we gonna be able to use
Yeah.
the kitchen? Are we gonna be able to use the restaurant to prepare this stuff?
When you come to your bread pudding and stuff, we'll make sure that we are able, if we don't have a convection oven back in there, we'll make sure you'll have room in that convection oven to prepare bread pudding.
That's all we ask.
Yep, I understand.
Because that's a big.
We're usually pretty easy to work with. usually.
Randy, I had a thank you to give. We don't get many thank yous up here, you don't. But I want to give you a thank you. And I would like to thank the people that worked on the barn. That barn is beautiful. Saturday night, we're going to have Elvis come from Branson. His name is Jay. And the Friends of the Barn have paid him a nice fee. And he's going to come and do an hour and 15-minute show. We have sold out the barn. 92 tickets, $20 a ticket. Never been done before. And I'd like to start with Rich. Rich, you and the HISID staff. Randy, you and David, David Dovern, the rec center staff, Randall Kavanaugh, and so many others have been out there. They tore out and David, that's David I met, and David Dovern. And a lot of other people that I don't even know because I wasn't over there all the time. They took out the center stage. For those of you who are new on the board or have never been in the barn, there was an electrical circular stage, and we never really turned it on because we thought maybe somebody would be, whatever. But it was working, and Rich, Randy, and David, and all these guys really went to town. And right now, you come in, there's a spotlight in the middle, and it says 1938, the barn, right on the floor. And then Pat and Chris Elwood and others from the Friends of the Barn have built the stage. And again, Randy and all you guys had set up the stage. It used to be the theater guild when we had a theater up at the ballroom. It's about 3 feet high, and it's now Elvis is going to be on the stage. And then Pat and the Friends of the Barn bought a backdrop. We've got spotlights. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I'm a big Elvis fan, and I've heard the shade is really good. So I'll say thank you very much for all of you. This is an example of people working together and having the best thing in Holiday Island. It's no bitching and complaining. It's no lawsuit. It's everybody says, we love this barn. We're going to make money on it, renting it, by the way. People love to have weddings and reunions in there. And we've got it fixed up now that it's great. And we need to get an employee that's going to rent the heck out of it. And we can do it. And the last thing I'll say about the water, just take a look at the local 3 papers and you'll find out what Eureka Springs is doing. Lots of problems with water. Lots of problems with sewer renovation. And I pay $52 a month for water for my wife and I, $20 for that irrigation. And next door it says, well, Brian, you don't take enough showers. That's the way the water goes. But I love our water. It's perfect, and thank you and all your employees. We have a good system. Thank you.
Any other comments? I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.